ML MMA and bare knuckle fight fans. I have a super special guest in the house today, and I'm so excited. Gerald Ng, CEO of World Lethwei Championship, all the way across the globe. What time is it over there, Gerald?
It's close to 10 p.m.
Wow. Well, for fight fans, it's 11:26 a.m., but let's not waste any more time because we got to talk about this big fight coming up. It's only a few days away, and you've got 2 title fights on the line.
Yep. WLC King of Nine Limbs comes to you August 2nd from Mandalay, Myanmar. It's the biggest Lethwei show in history. We have 2 title fights, and we have some of the biggest names that ever fought in Lethwei in this event. In the main event, it will be Dave Leduc, who's basically the king of Lethwei. He has beaten every single person in the sport, and he became the first foreigner to win the open belt championship, which basically means he's the best in the pound for pound, the best in the sport. And we've also brought in Seth Baczynski, 11-fight UFC veteran, to be his opponent. And it's the first time we got a big name guy from the UFC coming to fight in Myanmar for the first time. So really, really looking forward to that one.
Good for you. We're going to tell people where they can watch it later on in the program here, but many people make the mistake of comparing the sport to bare knuckle, but it's not really bare knuckle. So explain the sport to our fans so they can understand the difference, please, sir.
Lethwei, the history of the sport dates back like 1,000 years. Back in the early thousands, Burma, the Kingdom of Burma and the Kingdom of Thailand were fighting. So that was around the same time when Muay Thai was invented. And they were using it for hand-to-hand combat in wars and stuff. So it has a long history, and it's been ingrained in the culture ever since. Basically, in terms of the rules, I'll say it's a cross between bare knuckle fighting and Muay Thai. So you get to use your punches without gloves, you get elbows, you have knees, you have kicks, and you also have headbutts, which sets it apart from any other sport in the world.
Wow. Speaking of rules, I also read that at one point, many promoters got involved and they usually used an older set called a knockout rule set. Talk to me a little bit about how some of the rules have changed with your promotion.
Yeah, so we adopted a different rule set called World Lethwei rules. We didn't really change anything. These rules have been around for 20 years. It just so happened that promoters in the sport don't really use these rules. Basically, in traditional rule set, if a fight ends without a knockout, it's considered a draw. So you see these guys with 100 fights and 50 of them are draws, because Burmese fighters are really, really tough to knock out. And so we introduced a scoring system, and we've also modernized it by having ringside doctors who can stop the fight if they deem a fighter is too injured to continue. And that's something we adopt from international standards of boxing, of mixed martial arts. And also, the traditional rule set has a system where you can call a timeout, and we've also removed that. So if you're injured, if you're knocked down and you can't continue, then the fight is over.
Talk to us a little bit about what kind of a combat sports arena it is. It's more like a boxing ring, I would say. Is that correct, sir?
The competition is done in a ring, yes.
And how many rounds? How long do they last?
There are 3-minute rounds and 2-minute breaks in between. The top fighters all do 5 rounds. And we have, like, if you start as an amateur, you do 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds, and then you get to 5 rounds eventually.
Good for you, by the way. I read that you've also, one of the changes that you've become involved with since you started this wonderful new promotion is you're really making a big effort to have fighter safety be a priority.
I think that's one of the things that when you introduce the sport to a new audience, we have to be really careful of how we are presenting the sport. So we've really taken on that responsibility very seriously, and all our fighters get tested, the full spectrum of tests before competition. We had to cancel a fight for this upcoming event just because the fighter wants to fight. We decided he just had a fever and it wasn't that serious, but I'd rather cancel that fight than compromise his safety. Yeah, when we introduce the sport to new audiences, when people in the US and Canada and Europe are watching and they want to learn more about the sport, that's something that is really important to us to put our best foot forward. And I'm proud to say that after 8 events, we have never had a serious injury.
Good for you. You know, I have to ask you this question, Gerald, because I read that you actually did not know a lot about this particular type of combat sport when you started. So what attracted you to this particular type of combat sport, which, by the way, Fight Fans, is 2,000 years old?
Yeah, the history is amazing. And the thing is, Myanmar as a country has been really closed off for quite a while. They recently just started opening up. So they have this amazing sport, but even Fight Fans within the region itself, within Southeast Asia, we were never really had the opportunity to be exposed to this sport. And when I was looking for fighters for our first event, even if I go to Thailand, if I go to the Vietnam and all the countries in Southeast Asia, I had to really introduce to them the sport, like from scratch. Felt a bit like when, I guess when MMA was becoming mainstream and you had to educate people about it. I feel like we are at that precipice right now where we are telling people about it, and everybody I've told about it have come back as fans, as consumers, as fighters, and it's really blowing up right now.
I like to hear that. I want to come over and watch the sport as well.
Will you over one day?
Yes, I'm going to come. I promise I'm going to come. I got to come for a longer time, though, because I just saw something. And shout out to Robin Black, by the way. He was just talking about his 2-day trip there. So if I come, I'm going to come and stay and explore the beautiful country that you folks are able to show me around and kind of take in the culture. Where can someone learn this sport?
If you want to train or you want to watch?
Train.
Lethwei gyms are still predominantly in Myanmar. So if you come for holiday, there's a ton of really good gyms around here that are really traditional, and it's amazing the way they train. And if you watch on Netflix Fight World, they did an entire episode where Frank Grillo, the host, Hollywood actor, he came to Myanmar for a week and trained at some of the most rustic but beautiful gyms in the country.
Congratulations on your deal with UFC Fight Pass.
Yeah, so this upcoming event on Friday will be our 10th event with them, and UFC Fight Pass has been really, really amazing in terms of introducing the sport to a completely new audience. And the growth has been incredible. We get reports from the UFC Fight Pass team regularly on how the show does, and we're broadcast in the wee hours of the morning, but we consistently perform within the top 3 best shows in terms of viewership every single month we're on. So it's been incredible, the journey we've taken, and we're just getting started. I've been in close communication with the guys at Fight Pass, and they really want us to do an event in the US, and that's something I'm working on right now.
I would love that, and I think many of the U.S. fans would love that as well. You know, I think the sport is kind of a crossover as well. I've been covering a lot of bare knuckle, and I feel like the fight fans here in the U.S. are becoming more educated to other styles because, of course, bare knuckle is an old news sport. So we will definitely have to keep our viewers in the loop on if and when you come to the USA. How did you get into combat sports?
I've always been a huge fan of combat sports, of martial arts my whole life. When I was 18, I started writing about it as a freelance journalist, and then the guys at One Championship, who I was working closely with, just messaged me and asked me if I wanted to join the team. That was in 2013, and there were like 12 people in the office. So I was in the beginning stages of the growth of that organization. And I've been involved in martial arts ever since. And when my current bosses, who know a few of my ex-colleagues, they were starting this new company and they needed someone to show them the ropes of how to run a promotion. offered me the job. I signed the contract, booked my flight, and was in Myanmar a day later. So I've been here since 3 years now.
Good for you. Before we go today, Gerard, is there anything else you want to add, please, sir?
I just want to share with you more about, I'm really proud of the deal with UFC Fight Pass. One of our key broadcast partners as well is French broadcaster Knuckle. So they broadcast us in France, in Vietnam, in Myanmar, in 10 countries in Africa. So we're live across 60 different countries right now. This Friday, WLC King of Nine Limbs is the event to check out. We for the first time, we have fighters from 10 different countries, and we've got the best guys from every single country. And it's going to be a huge event. It's the biggest event we've ever done, and I can't wait for it.
By the way, fight fans, WLC puts on a spectacular show. It's the real deal. You know, the production quality of the shows are on the same par as organizations like the UFC, like DAZN, like Bellator. It combines a lot of history and a lot of very, very interesting combat sports. It's really an amazing sport. So I really urge you to tune in this weekend and watch WLC's King of Nine Limbs. Gerald, I really enjoyed this interview. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you good luck at your event this weekend.
Thank you for having me, and I would love to bring you out here one day to check it out.